DevilNeverCry.
What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and welcome to another DMC lore video. In today's video, we'll be covering Argosax the Chaos, the main villain of DevilNeverCry 2 and a previous ruler of the demon world. All of the information that I'll be discussing in this video can be found not only in DevilNeverCry 2 itself, but the DMC5 Before the Nightmare novel, which acts as a prequel to DMC5 and helps to provide a whole lot of context in regards to the DMC universe. The DMC5 Before the Nightmare novel has not officially been localized by Capcom, and as such I'll be going by a community translation of the novel found on the Divinity Statue website, which I will conveniently leave a link to down in the description below. With that said, let's start at the very beginning. Who or what is Argosax the Chaos? Taking a look at DevilNeverCry 2's enemy file description for Argosax, it gives us a bit of context, where the English version actually states, "The king once ruled most of the demon world and subdued all the demons, but was defeated by Sparda." Playing through DevilNeverCry 2, this obviously holds true, where Mathieu herself states in a couple of cutscenes to Dante that Sparda had visited Via Damali a couple of centuries ago and helped the Protectors push back against Argosax the Chaos and seal him away. But by taking a look at the Japanese version of DevilNeverCry 2 and subsequently its enemy file for Argosax the Chaos, we get even more context as to what the Argosax really was, where it goes on to state that Argosax was the overlord of chaos that in one time held in his hands most of the demon world and subdued many demons, but was defeated by Sparda and was eventually waiting for the time of his resurrection. And then a key point here, it also states, possesses both forms and abilities of every demon. That final sentence, that key piece of knowledge there, was omitted from the English localization of DevilNeverCry 2, and it actually solves a question that has been laid against Argosax for quite some time. Why exactly was the first half of that final boss a strange amalgamation of all of the previous bosses in DMC2, along with extras like Griffin, who was a boss in the original DevilNeverCry that you didn't even see in DMC2. A fair portion of the DMC community, myself included, always thought the Argosax the Chaos boss was a bit of a cop-out and in fact quite anticlimactic. After all, there was no story justification as to why there was this weird amalgamation of all these previous bosses that we had just defeated. Having that extra information provides more context to the boss fight and changes my whole perspective on it slightly. In fact, I just wish they'd been wilder with Argosax being able to imitate any and every single demon, but perhaps that is just due to DMC2 being a product of its time and technological limitations, but that's a conversation for another day. Getting back to the lore. After Dante defeats Argosax the Chaos at the end of DMC2, we get to see its true form, the Despair Embodied. Taking a look at the enemy file description for the Despair Embodied, it states, having a perfect androgynous appearance and possessing majestic dignity, it was often worshipped as a god, but its true nature is ultimate despair. Both translations of the enemy file make reference to the perfect androgynous appearance and some form of dignity, though only the Japanese enemy file states that the Despair Embodied was worshipped as a god. And I say god, I don't necessarily mean in a literal sense, considering that the previous enemy file stated that Argosax had subdued all demons. They obviously had no choice but to look upon the Despair Embodied in awe, considering how powerful it really was. Speaking of power, it would be utterly remiss of me not to mention one specific ability that Argosax the Chaos wields, which will answer a lot of questions about the second half of DMC2 and of course, Phantom. Mission 14 opens up with a key quote from the guidepost for the Hunters, specifically Chapter 11, Clause 7. The power of the demon world can warp the minds of men and stop the hands of time. In the time between seconds, reality is not what it seems. The dark forces can bend passages that once led to real destinations into circles of infinite confusion. The hunter must seek out and activate the key posts of the demon realm. 4 lights will open the door to the future and the past. Mission 14 has Dante roam around a twisted and warped version of the Via de Mali. A partial gate to the demon world has been opened thanks to the efforts of Arius, and though the Argosax can't enter the human world itself, a portion of its power has begun to seep out. As Dante seeks out each of the 4 seal spheres and activates them, the demon world's influence intensifies, culminating in a door finally opening. And running parallel to the demon world's influence increasing, so too does the influence of Argosax the Chaos. And as that door finally opens, a time paradox is created and Phantom appears. The Brady Games DMC2 strategy guide also refers to Phantom as a time paradox because it simply doesn't make any sense. If Phantom is pulled from a previous timeline before he was defeated by Dante in DMC1, and he is killed here in DMC2, how is he there to meet Dante in the cathedral at Malay Island? It's a time paradox because it simply doesn't make any sense, but thus is the power of Argosax the Chaos. No doubt that hearing Argosax was immensely powerful and capable of subduing all demons likely doesn't sit right with a lot of you. After all, how does Mundus and Sparta fit into the equation? And that brings us to the next part of this video. The history of Argosax the Chaos. Pulling from the DMC5 Before the Nightmare novel, we come to find out that just over 2,000 years ago, way before the events of DevilNeverCry, Argosax the Chaos and Mundus the Demon Prince were at war, and in fact these 2 great devils were so evenly matched that the underworld, the demon world, was split into 2 halves. One side was ruled by Argosax the Chaos, and the other ruled by Mundus. Though, I would like to stress that the only reason that Mundus was capable of rivaling Argosax the Chaos is thanks to consuming the fruit of the Qlipoth tree. As those of you who've played DMC5 will know, as it was pivotal to the story of that game, the fruit of this tree is said to provide immense power to any demon who eats it. The only known beings said to have consumed this fruit are Mundus the Demon Emperor, who got his ass handed to him not only by Sparta but by Dante, and Urizen, who, surprise surprise, also got his ass handed to him by Dante, which just goes to show that power isn't everything. After Sparta rebelled against his own kind and sealed away his own power and Mundus for 2 millennia, there was a massive power vacuum in the underworld which allowed Argosax the Chaos to comfortably take over the rest of the demon world that he didn't already control, and thanks to his immense power, there was no one left to challenge him. Thanks to the actions of Sparta at the Temenigru Tower, the main setting for DMC3, the human world was separated entirely from the demon world, allowing the humans to live in peace for a time. It is then that the story moves forward and we find ourselves a couple of centuries before the events of DMC2, where a substantial amount of occultists on the Via de Mali begin to worship Argosax in secret, eventually summoning him into the human world. Considering the immense power of Argosax the Chaos, it's no surprise that the protectors of Via de Mali are struggling to banish Argosax back into the demon world. It is at this point that Sparta himself appears and aids the protectors in sealing away Argosax with the Arcana relics. The Arcana Medaglia, Arcana Spada, Arcana Calice and Arcana Bastone are 4 holy relics that Sparta used to seal away the Argosax, and in fact, these are the 4 relics that Arius, one of the villains of DMC2, tried so hard to get his hands on as he wished to undo the seal and take the power of Argosax for himself, which, as many of us know, really didn't go so well for him at all. Arius attempts to summon Argosax the Chaos back into the human world by collecting the 4 holy relics and uniting them under a solar eclipse, though he realizes far too late that Dante got one over on him and replaced the medaglia with his own coin. Though the ritual is incomplete thanks to Dante's meddling, a partial doorway straight into hell is still opened, which results in a piece of Argosax's power finding its way into Arius, which essentially leads into nothing as Lucia easily defeats him, though the Argosax still lies in hell, which prompts Dante to drive straight in there like his father before him. Thanks to the power that Argosax the Chaos wields, one that is big enough to rival Mundus and by extension even rival Sparda's, this is one threat that Dante just can't let lie. There's a throwaway line uttered by Arius in DMC2 which implies that Argosax the Chaos is seemingly immortal. This ends up being nothing but wishful thinking, of course, as Dante defeats the Despair Embodied with one well-placed bullet from Ivory. And thus ends Argosax the Chaos, once a powerful ruler of the demon world that is now nothing more than a footnote in the DMC universe. If you enjoyed today's video, do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing as it all helps out the channel. And let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on Argosax the Chaos and all of the surrounding DMC2 lore. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.